Hey guys, I'm going to make a short video about the Mikuni Super SBN carburetors. This is a manual that I have. It's a Watercraft Carburetors Owner's Manual. And I own a few Polaris SLTs. I'm working on an SLX now. And there's a lot of talk online about which is the correct needle and seat size to use, what pressure should you run. So anyway, I wanted to go through this with you guys. Currently, Polaris says that they want your pop-off pressures to be between 10 and 18 psi. That's, I believe, from 1992 to 1995. Polaris 650, 750, and 780 model Fuji engines. And trying to locate what size needle and seat in each of those owner's manuals that I've looked through, they never seem to indicate the actual size of the needle and seat. I've talked to some people over the years and they recommended using the 1.5, but I found this manual and I thought it would be an interesting talk and it would explain things more correctly. So I'm going to skip right ahead to page 9 of this manual. Page 9 of this manual shows the MKBN 38/44 SPR. This is basically the 38/44 Venturi Super SBN carburetor that comes on most of our Polaris jet skis. And if you scroll down here, it says, let's see, I gotta go down. Here it is. It's item number 31. Item 31 says that the needle valve assembly, Viton, the part number is 786-35015, and it actually says /size. 35015 is a 150. So that is the size that they recommend for their stock OEM carburetors out of the box. It comes with a 150. Now if you scroll down to, let's see, page 13 in their manual, it will tell you, let me make this a little bit bigger, hold on a second. Measuring pop-off pressures. You can measure pop-off pressures with a pop-off pump available from Mikuni or through your dealer. You can get a relative good indication of pop-off pressures by simply using the needle valve or arm spring guide in this manual. Pop-off pumps are available in 3 ranges: 0 to 30, 0 to 60, and 0 to 100. For most performance applications, a 0 to 30 psi pump is appropriate. So Mikuni has basically a guide right here that tells you what needle and valve sizes you can use and what pressures you can assume to get with each of those different size springs. So basically, with the stock 1.5 needle valve with the shiny silver spring that Polaris is generally used, the 65 gram spring, you can expect to have 32 psi pop-off pressure. Now Polaris recommends 10 to 18 pounds of pressure. Now the higher the pressure, the less throttle response you'll get. When you nail the gas, if the pressure is lower, you're going to get more gas sooner. If the pressure is higher, you're going to get less gas. But in this manual, it does state that you should use the smallest needle valve possible based on what pressures you're trying to get. So in theory, if for my Polaris SL 780 that I'm working on now, I would use a needle valve size of 2.0 with the shiny silver 65 gram spring. That would give me 18 psi pop-off pressure. Again, Polaris recommends 10 to 18. Now, a lot of times when I'm doing things like this and they give you such a wide margin, 10 to 18, I would split it in half and I would go to a 2.3 at 15 psi. Now a 2.3 at 15 psi will give you, you would assume, more fuel right when you nail the gas. But they also do say that with the lower pop-off pressures, if you do a lot of idling through the 5-mile-an-hour zones and things like that, because of the lower pop-off pressures, you could actually have a load up problem at idle where your jet ski starts to load up and you're fouling plugs, that could be because your pop-off pressures are too low. But honestly, between 15 and 18 is really not a big deal. But I think for me, I'm going to use a 2.0 needle valve size. That'll give me 18 psi of pressure, and I think we'll be good. Now, if I needed to get a little more or less, let's say less pop-off pressure, what I could do, let's say I need less pop-off pressure and I'm using the 65-gram spring. I could take the spring back out and I could cut a half of a ring off, and that would give me less spring, and that would then in turn lower my pressure. Now if I went to, let's say I went to the needle valve size of 2.3 with the 65-gram spring, I would have 15 psi. But if that pressure was not high enough, if I wanted to raise those pressures, I could just put the 80-gram spring in, which is 17 psi, and that would in turn keep it from opening quite as fast. So I mean, I could go with the 2.3 with the 80-gram spring, and then if I'm not getting enough fuel out of the hole when I nail the gas, instead of replacing the whole needle valve, I could just change the spring to the shiny silver, and it would lower my pressures. But anyway, from what I have learned over the years, I recommend a needle valve size of 2.0 with a shiny silver 65-gram spring to give you a pop off of 18 psi. So I hope that helps you guys out and explains a little bit more of how the pop-off pressures works and what you should use. So again, if you're going to use a 1.5 with a shiny silver, you're going to end up with a pop-off pressure of 32 psi, which is going to be way too much based on what the manual says. So, all right, have a great day.